Hello, I'm Leroy Garcia, and this is Blue Rain Gallery Podcast. Today we have in our studio Starr Hardridge. Welcome, Starr. This is your second time around.
It's an honor and a privilege.
It is mutual. I've been a fan of your work since I saw it in the beginning, and you have been developing and growing, and very proud of you. A lot of work, a lot of effort, and experimentations I can see coming out. Today I wanted to talk about some of the things before we started this podcast, we were talking about some of the roots of the imagery that you're working with. And so I thought it'd be cool. Let's talk a little bit about that. I picked 4 paintings that we can cover, and we can go talk however you want, laterally, wherever you want to go with this. But let's start with this Madre Sagrada, and that's a nice word, Spanish.
Yes. Yes, the Sacred Mother. And, I am a twin, and we're paying tribute to my own mother and my twin brother. And this is sort of a continuation of a story that I've been kind of developing through some of the imagery that I've painted in the past with the blue deer. And the first image is you see the doe out, sort of bounding around in the wilderness. And then in another painting, she's being chased by a buck. And in here, she's given birth to these twin fawns, and they're continuing their life together.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about the reference where the blue deer started, because we're talking about the Pop Chili and Woody Crimbo and people from the Oklahoma cultures. But where's the inspiration for the blue deer come from?
The Huichol people in the Sierra Madres in Mexico. They're the indigenous Mexican people down in that area, and they're known for their yarn paintings and their extensive beadwork and their effigies. They apply small, tiny, minuscule beads to wax effigies, and really exciting colors. They're peyotists, and a lot of the imagery comes from their experiences. And
so peyoteist, meaning the religion of using peyote.
Yes, it's
spiritual.
It's their sacrament, and I think they go on sort of a yearly pilgrimage to go find their sacrament. And I think some of the men carry along bows, symbolically looking for the blue deer, which is sort of their spiritual guide, and one of their great deities in their religion. And so and in this image, where you see birds in the blue deer, what I've been told by a Huichol descendant, that there's a story about a double-headed eagle. It comes down to help blue deer actually raise the sun, so it's a part of their creation stories. And he said that anytime you see like the blue deer with the sort of birds, it sort of symbolizes this action. And so I felt it important to bring these images together and create sort of a spiritually charged image. And also I'm giving a nod to those Oklahoma flat painters that I was so influenced by as a child. You see the sort of our state bird, the scissor-tail flycatcher. That's sort of a.
That's what you have here in the corners.
Yes, that's a sort of a modern approach to represent those birds. And I wanted to bring in sort of this sort of sunburst color coming in the background, sort of illuminate the blue deer.
Man, it's a beautiful painting. I like the graduation of the colors of dark blue down to the turquoise. Really a lot of thought in here. It seems like a powerful painting. I like the reference to your brother. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he's very special to me. He's also he's complete opposite. He's a president of a mortgage bank, and he's very business minded. But one of my biggest collectors. I've known him for 48 years, and he's always been able to pick some of my best pieces.
Well, I think that's wonderful. That it's kind of a tribute piece.
yeah, to my family, and also to pay honor to. All these art influences that have been very powerfully injected into my work over the years, because without them, I would not be where I'm at. So I stand on the shoulder of giants, I like to say.
Well, I like the conversation we had with another artist prior to here, and talking about the trade routes amongst the native peoples and the influences. So you definitely had trading from Mesoamerican cultures into the Southwest, the Southeast corridors, and even into the top part of the United States. We're sharing imagery or processes or figures or whatever it is. When I think about like Chaco Canyon, we're talking about, they found parrot feathers and, stuff from definitely Mexico in there. And we know that those were a major trade center of turquoise. That turquoise scattered throughout the world pretty good as far as the New World via those corridors. So that's interesting. Let's talk about the wild horses, the high country.
Yeah, wild horses, high country. And I go back and forth from really tight imagery, like the blue deer painting, to more abstract forms where I can sort of branch out and do more improvisational things as far as the composition and the colorways. Because I can't really plan it out. It's like a little mind game that I have to play a little chess with colors. I don't know how Navajo weavers do it, but you almost have to do it as you go in sort of a meditative
Really have to
mindset.
Pre-plan it in advance.
You have to see it in your head, or just really improvise with the feeling that you're getting, and make things reverberate off each other.
Well, especially when I'm looking at these type of abstraction paintings, that there's to map that out, and you're doing it, and that must be a major challenge.
Well, the challenge is that, okay, with conventional painting, people can try out different under paintings and layer things and paint over things if they don't like it. But for me, I have to commit with every single dot. There's a commitment to that, where I put things down, and it's kind of like a one-shot deal. And so I have to really there's a certain amount of faith that you have to have when you're doing work like this, and really be tuned in to the images that you're painting, because I can't really go back and go over things because I'm painting in fields of color. So I really have to commit to the decisions. I have to make permanent decisions about what I'm doing, and I do a lot of praying, and really kind of get into just an extremely focused mindset when I'm doing this.
Well, for our audience who may be coming into realizing your work right now, they may not know from seeing a digital picture. His style is very pointillistic. It's reminiscent of beadwork. And so it does take a lot of thought, like a weaver, pre-planning, not necessarily with a pre-drawing and in the mix. Is going developing as he's going along. How would you describe your style? Is it pointillistic or?
Yes, this is a pointillism in its purest form. Now, I did travel to Europe, so I was influenced by the European pointillist painters, Georges Seurat and Signac and several others that were painting in the late 1800s, as well as Monet, because I consider some of his stuff pointillistic too. And basically, they used sort of a scientific approach where they were laying down pure points of color, and then when you drew back away from it, your eyes optically mixed those colors. And so you would get different variations of purples or greens from the primary colors that were put in close proximity. And, there's also the aspect of, the influences of the southeastern beadworkers and beadworkers of the southern plains, where they were working in fields of color, and they weren't really approaching it like that. It was more solid colors applications, but it's pointillistic in the fact that they were putting down one bead at a time. To me, it's three-dimensional painting is what they were doing, because they're just as much of painters as painters are. It's just a different form, and I draw from both of those art forms.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a very unique work. When I think about Blue Rain And how we've grown is because we've found people that are innovative and refined, and you match that in so many ways.
This is the way of Native people. They've been forced to innovate their entire lives, since the dawn of time. What they had to work with is what they had, and they had to use their skills and to deal with the elements in survival, and to use new materials that were introduced to them over time by the colonials. And that's one of the great things about Native art is it's constantly evolving, and they're being influenced by other Native people and the world around them, and they trade ideas, and it's just sort of an ever evolving way. And my painting is just an extension of that history.
Where'd you derive the inspiration for doing this in an abstract way?
For the horse painting?
Yeah, for the horse painting.
Well, my initial inspiration, I was thinking about young artists that I've been following, or actually knew in the Santa Fe area, and that sort of young energy and how they sort of gather together and get fresh ideas. And it's basically reminiscent of my old art school days, just being around like-minded people that were, innovating themselves. And you take a little bit here, you borrow there, and eventually, you develop your own recipe for what you're going to do. And that is just the way kind of I approach that painting. It really starts with the drawing. The drawing for that painting is actually over 10 years old, and I still have that. I did it during a time when I was working for a conservation firm on the East Coast, and I actually been sent to the United States Capitol building to do some trompe l'oeil work, and which was very tedious and time-consuming. And at night, I would do these really crazy abstract drawings to kind of have a cathartic release from the constraints of that work. And I held on to those drawings. Some of the drawings I sold, but they later they became blueprints for some of the other paintings. Not only that painting, but the painting behind us. Those paintings came from older drawings, and
so you're talking about the shapeshifter.
The shapeshifter, yes, that's one of the ones I still had the original drawing for that. And so I reproduced the drawing.
So is there shapeshifters in your culture, like there is like in the Navajo culture?
Similar. I think most tribes have sort of a version of shapeshifters. In the southeastern culture, they have something called Dear Lady or Dear Woman. And these are stories that I'd hear earlier in life, and Dear Woman was sort of a transformer or trickster, and she would go to the stomp dances at night and try to lure men away from into the darkness, and
like a siren.
Well, yeah, like a siren. And and eventually when they gave in, she would end up stomping them to death with her hoofed feet. And so there was a sort of a moral tale behind the story that she would only mess with bad men with bad intentions. So you live a good righteous life. You have good thoughts, good words, and good actions. You will never run into the Dear Lady.
I don't want to meet that lady. That's funny. Okay, let's talk about this last one before we talk about some other things. Return of the Stranger.
Return of the Stranger. Well, this is sort of a character, I guess, that I had started several years ago, and I was sort of superimposing this sort of, well, in this one, it's influenced by peyote stitch. It's influenced by Seminole patchwork, ribbon work from the southeastern, ribbon dresses and ribbon shirts. But this was sort of an evolved painting. I did a painting of a friend that had passed about a year or so ago, of this man looking into the distance, looking over yonder, traveling to places that he had never been because he'd been freed from his earthly bonds. And to me, this is sort of an extension of that story, where the idea of that person or the spirit or the soul, still comes back to visit me from time to time, and his loved ones, and that our loved ones are never too far away from us. I feel like you're still with us, looking over us and guiding us, and it's just about people that we lost can sometimes come back to us in mysterious ways.
I believe in that. I lost my sister when she was 27. That was almost 24 4 years ago, and there's essence of things I see that pop up that remind me of her in her life, and I take that as her presence. Kind of the same thing. No?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's cool. So Starr hasn't been with Blue Rain for this last year, pretty much. What have you been up to? Tell us. What's been going on?
Well, we did the show last year and did pretty well, but right after that, my schedule just got filled up with a lot of private commissions. One of the big projects that I did was I got commissioned by the Oklahoma Arts Council to do a portrait of Chief Wilma Mankiller, who was the only and first female chief to be elected to an indigenous tribe in the Cherokee Nation. And she was an extraordinary woman. She accomplished a lot for her tribe. She developed a lot of clinics for her people and developed early Head Start programs for children and adult education programs. She developed a lot of infrastructure for her people. And increased the revenue of the tribe a great deal. And I think the population of the Cherokee Nation more than doubled during her term. So she's an extraordinary woman, and it was a great honor to paint her portrait, which now hangs in the permanent collection of the Oklahoma State Capitol building. So that was just an incredible honor, and I plan on taking my kids there this summer so they can see the work there and also see the work that their mother and I completed at IFAM, at the First Americans Art Museum in Oklahoma City. So there's actually several institutions there in Oklahoma City that have my work. The First Americans Art Museum, State Capitol Building. There's a couple of pieces in the National Cowboy Museum and Western Heritage Museum. And I did there was a commission for the Seminole Nation Museum, and also my tribe, the Muscogee Creek Nation, implored me to do some large scale murals, and I hadn't done any murals in probably 6 years, and this was for a new hospital in Tulsa. That's the Council Oak Healthcare Center. And these murals were 8 feet high and 22 feet long. I did 2 of them, and then there was another one that was 8 feet high and 4 feet wide. And they were all done with a brush, So I still
wasn't pointillist.
No.
That drives me nuts on a,
yeah, and
on a mural.
This was great. This was definitely a cathartic release where I could go big with the brush, and I'm still very proficient with the brush. It's always there. Anytime that I want to pick it up, I can paint just as well with the brush. Definitely a lot quicker, but I'm able to express myself in more. I just have more to my disposal. There's only so much that I can do, and I'm limited as far as rendering with this technique. And I think I can do a lot more with the conventional style of painting.
Well, I think the reason I wanted you to talk about this is that the importance of your career trajectory. And once you start getting these museums, that says a lot about you, Starr, and your talent and your contribution to your tribe and to the native peoples of that area, and the innovation of style that you've created in painting. We're very proud of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for coming today. I'd like to encourage everybody to subscribe to our podcast. We're on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, any platform that you're comfortable with. I also like to encourage you to bring art with you into your everyday life by going to bluerainprintshop.com. Thank you, Starr.
Thank you.